Well, hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome along to 2S Tier 2 here in Singapore, where fittingly, as we've entered the darkness in this part of the world, 1 degree north of the equator, soon we'll see many of these 1.6-litre, 90-degree V6 turbo engines roar around, actually V8 turbo engines roar around Singapore like the Singapore Lions. The Biggles can't be doing this one alone, and joining me in the commentary box, well, for the first time, I believe, right? Mr. Productive Panda. How are you doing?
It is my first time. It is my first time on 2S, but it is my first time on Tier 2. Yeah, I'm doing absolutely great. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I like Singapore. 23 of those corners take absolutely no prisoners as barriers. There's your current weather forecast at the moment. So we could be looking to dry as we're looking at the pineapple have a bit of a tank slope a couple of times next to the wall. They're not agreeing with that wall this evening. Certainly not going to getting a Christmas card from that wall, the way he's treating it there. 10 minutes is going to dry up, my friend, from that weather forecast that you see up in the top right hand of the stream, if you can. So that's courtesy of the software that I use.
I'm going to have a look at the weather right now. But I mean, I think these drivers, Biggles, are going to hope and pray that it dries up. Singapore, one of those tracks, it's horrible in the dry and it's even worse in the wet. So these drivers, yeah, they're going to be hoping and praying that in the next 10 minutes it's going to dry up. Because if it doesn't, it's going to mean bad news for qualifying times.
Fantastic. You're right. And I do happen to rely... jeez, that's right. I forgot about this. Just 1 second. I can't change the graphics around because I changed my internet. So let me go over to another internet so I can use my Stream Deck. So I can't join the network. Don't ever buy an iPad. Anybody wants an iPad out there, you can have mine.
If you want a slightly used, very irritant iPad.
Oh, mine's pretty much brand new. I'm just not a fan of Apple software too much. There's a spinning car.
Alpha, I think that was an alpha of Futuristic, was it? It was either... Yeah. No, it was... Oh, it's Heinke. It's Heinke, and he just made contact with one of the McLarens. That is not ideal. Oh, no, not other alphas. Ooh, it's chaos. It is... Yeah, okay, so... We're a few minutes into the session, 6 minutes in, and it's already chaos on qualifying. Don't run into the Mercedes. Oh, it's chaos. It's absolute chaos, Biggles. I mean, as I said, the rain only is bad news around here, and I think that's unfortunately come true.
But they're still, believe it or not, in it currently at the moment in our short qualifying session. So we've still got 13 minutes to go. As long as they get no absolute complete DNFs. So they get back to the pits there, replace some of those parts. And remember, as the track's starting to dry out towards the end, looking to go to the dry tyre compound. So I don't think they're going to be too worried at this point about those little tangles.
Yeah, I mean, we do, see some drivers who have gone out, but they haven't actually done any laps on their tires. So I think most of them are probably just waiting just for it to dry enough so they can smack on those soft tires and hopefully get out as soon as possible.
Just going to check all my graphics and stuff like that. Unfortunately, semi not working.
Oh, that's fine.
As the weather forecast is showing up there. And I have to keep pausing it, guys. Sorry, because I have all the hotkeys set on the iPad. That's not working. So that just means I got to pause it. I do want to set this graphic up real hot lap graphic. That's the one I want. There it is.
Is it on?
Yes, it is.
See it? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, guys, for bearing with that. I like this hot lap graphic provided by Team Telemetry because you can see the purple sector too. Currently, at the moment, that Cotelet is on, and that's accurate because unfortunately the game, when it shows the purple, sometimes is not absolutely accurate. This one is, so we're watching the Finnish driver going his way around turn 20. Currently at the moment, a series of sweeping left hand and right hands, and then finally around the sweeping 23. So when you get right, they go too far out and invalidate, and that should be the quickest lap, and it will be the quickest lap.
That's the thing as well. I mean, because we're just going to see, these... The lapse times are just going to start going faster and faster until the point where, that first soft set will go on and we should see some extremely quick times. Because, I mean, we can, on the track itself, we can see an extremely dry line forming already. So these drivers, whether it's the smartest thing to continue going out now on those inters and just setting faster lap after faster lap, I don't know. I personally think it might be, you know, better for them if they got at the end of the session on new tires, but that might just be me, you know. A drying track like this is unpredictable, and a DNF around Singapore isn't something unheard of, unfortunately.
Yes. And on top of it, well, Subby was just, that was a Red Bull driver of Joel. He was setting the fastest in the middle sector and then invalidated. I'm not sure if that was purposely invalidated or just backed off. I tell you what, if you set a pretty damn quick time on the inters and it starts to dry out and somehow they don't get into that territory or have some issues, then you get a choice of tyres to start the race on. We'll go to the man in P7 at the moment. Agafa setting a purple sector 2 for the Williams. In honour for Frank Williams, no doubt, if we can hook this one up without invalidating around the final corner, down the main straight, up into P2 provisionally. And that's on. Well, I was going to say I thought that was on soft tyres, but still, inters.
Those are on older inters as well. Dan Kirti's previous lap. Yeah, just behind Kirti on older inters. I mean, that shows you how fast the track is ramping up. Because to do something like that, even if a lap old tires, in qualifying, it's not as easy as it might look. But as you were pointing out, if they can qualify in inters, they'll have a free tire choice for the race. But if they don't get a good qualifying spot because they use the inters, that's definitely not what they want either.
You are absolutely correct out there for sure with your technical driving knowledge. Strix is in the chat there before and said the tier 2 rain Singapore is a brilliant recipe for disaster. Perhaps for sure, but it will dry out during the qualifying. Just let us know too if the audio levels are all okay, how the stream is. As I said, there was a little bit of a delay at the start because I was having issues where I had to switch over to a backup internet. That is supposed to be slower, but somehow works a little bit better streaming to YouTube. And our audio levels as well, because with my 3 monitors at the moment, something's pushing my CPU through there. Through the roof as Joel crosses the line and goes quickest of everybody. I was about to say without setting a purples, but it is the purple up there. You can see in the third sector.
We should have a look. No, yeah. Sorry, Biggles. Should have a look at Neo Dio and Merlin on the softs and mediums individually. Already saying that these conditions aren't that treacherous and that they're going to try it. Whether it's that smart, I'm not quite sure yet, but I think we should keep an eye on those two, because whatever happens with those two, I think that's going to be a big telltale sign for the rest of the field, whether those dry tires are the right tire to use yet.
Well, Mr. Thunders is not, as Kurte comes out of the corner with a bit of traffic up ahead. It's cost him. You can see the middle sector is going a lot slower as he had the fastest first sector. We'll keep an eye on Neo Dio for sure, yeah. Mr. Thunders is still sitting in the pits. They're contemplating putting on the tyres, but it doesn't come out on track yet. Well, the man who's braving more than anybody else right now, slapping those soft tyres on. It could go absolutely perfect for this driver. Greek driver, I believe. He's driving under a Greek flag or not, but it could go absolutely all wrong if the walls disagree with you as it goes over the Anderson Bridge. How is it feeling, you think, on board the Mercedes?
I mean, it does look a bit finicky, but of course, you know, the best cars, it needs to be on edge constantly. It does look like he is handling the car perfectly well. Of course, you know, the track itself, because of F1 2021's visual, how can I say this, the visual rendering, we can't really tell if it's time for the dries yet. But how he's driving, he's touching his apexes, he's getting where he needs to be, and he hasn't invalidated yet or spun yet. So I think, as we see more soft and medium runners come out here, I think this track is ready for dries. So I think, you know, we see some people getting onto the mediums, hoping to set their tires. Of course, the medium's the preferable tire for a race around Singapore. So these softs, they're probably, I would expect a few of these guys to do a quick lap up on the softs and then go out on the mediums a bit later and set the fastest lap they can, just to see what they can do and try and start on that medium tire.
As Dragon says, it's still a bit too early for Slick probably, but we are on board with the man that's the first to gamble with the Slicks. As you can see, the rain has practically all but stopped, but the track will still have a little bit of rain there. It will dissipate pretty quickly in this game as he's flying his well through the DRS. That's obviously just been enabled down Ruffles Boulevard, so Michael Massey and the gods at B have dictated it's definitely conditions good for slicks. And look at that. First sector, 2.7 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, shaved off the fastest first sector. So, yes, I think it's time.
If it isn't time for dries now, I don't know when it will be times. I know, but as I said, amazing job he's doing. It's those softs, you know, of course we will see times better than that, but those softs around Singapore, they are extremely fast compared, you know, to the inters, of course. But I mean, whether you want to be starting on them, he might still back out of this lap because the mediums, as I said, the more preferable race tire. Those softs, they don't last for too long around this track, unfortunately.
He's got 3 temps in that middle sector, so just had to get up and get a drink. I'm actually going to hit the record button and record this locally as well, too. So I do see it's a little choppy out there in the the YouTube world, and I don't want it to be completely like that for the drivers to come back and watch it later. So if I record it locally, I'll be able to give it to the powers that be, and they can upload it to the channel, and you guys can watch it hopefully in a better quality mode. As Neo Deer will be crossing the line any minute now and definitely set the fastest time, but will it be the quickest time in the dries? 1:42.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, yeah. So expect to see purples coming up left, right, and centre for the other drivers, because now you have to get out there and put those. I was about to say Snelly was still sitting in the pits there on the inters, but he's decided to come out.
I think he has to. So it's going to be interesting. Does Neo now pit and either go for a new set of softs or mediums, or do you think he might just be going for another push lap? Doesn't look like he's improving by much so far on his previous lap, so it's going to be interesting to see what he does.
No, he's pushing, my friend, because you just got a purple.
Is he? Okay, I do apologize. Yeah. My game might be a tad behind. Oh, he is pushing. He's going to try and get a good time there on the board. He won't. I don't think he'll have enough ERS for the third push lap. Definitely not. He's already at 30% on that battery. So he's going to give it his all through these last 3 corners, of course. The chicanes around here, extremely, how can I say this? If you get them right, you're going to gain a lot of time. If you get them wrong, you might find yourself in a wall, unfortunately, as he gets past the traffic here. Of one of those McLarens speeding past with the DRS. That Mercedes is just beautiful in the nighttime, isn't it, Bings? I mean, wow.
It is. He's 1 second as well quicker than everybody else on the track, as you could just see through that middle sector. However, there are drivers behind him going even quicker. I will commit to that beautiful-looking Mercedes, who just looks like he's gone AI there for 2 seconds or so, but thankfully back in control. And you'll only be doing that when you're flying around a corner at 100 kilometers an hour. A lot of these tricky ones. Stream looks fine. Thank you very much, Vito. So, well, I won't slap the record button if it's looking good right now. Who's looking good? The Merc across the line, 140s. But who's going to be looking even better? The Mercedes. Sorry, the Williams. Also powered by the Mercedes, but just with a different livery. And Agafor is flying, my friend. He's just trumped those times already, as the track is definitely improving.
But that should show you the absolute raw pace that these guys have. You know, definitely something else. It's what they hold in hand. Yeah, now they're going to try and show it all, but all I'm going to say is the race pace. It's something else than this pace, and we'll have to see who wins the race on that. Qualifying is one thing, but the race, that's another thing. That is a totally different other thing.
Yeah, and I did have the weather forecast to show you for the race in a second. This is just having a look at Mr. Futuristic, who's... I don't think he even set a time before, just manages to set one finally this evening and got a 1:30 and a 7.9. Remember, on the mediums, there's our weather forecast right now, as I have to do that the old-fashioned way, unfortunately. Didn't show up anyway. I know why, because it's over here. Anyway, there it is. Yeah, so sunny conditions, I think, for the start of the race. So we should be good. There it is.
Maybe not sunny, maybe a bit dark, but definitely dry conditions.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
We'll say for a bit of a race.
The sun is the bulbs, all 1,600 of them that illuminate the circuit at night. They're all miniature suns, my friend, although they're not burning
Very
any
small
gases.
sun.
They're all LEDs, of course, so they are diodes instead of a bit of vacuum tube. Whatever. Yeah.
I was watching Neo there for a second, and he absolutely missed the whole of the pit lane, and I had to cut through there. It's not very smart, Neo. You probably should not be doing that.
He's retired.
Oh, the McLaren of Pineapple spinning, and I think that was his final lap. He won't have time. Yeah, won't have enough time to go for another one. So I think his fastest lap attempt, he was trying to do off and that is definitely not ideal. Agatha, then going P1 of 136.919. We could have probably seen a bit more pace out of those tires if it was in the dry conditions, but I mean, 136.919, still an extremely good time. Followed by Futuristic 137.499, and then George of 137.747. All decent times around the track. I think they could have more pace.
Still not over just yet. There's two drivers that are absolutely flying. It's going to be close between both of them. And that's Joel, I think, up at a P4. But what about his teammate? Oh, sorry, Joel. There is two Joels, of course. There's the other Joel 8, and there's Joel right now we're watching. So, sorry, there's also Ocean Chief. And that's Joel up at a P4. Merlin up at a P3. So they've got a little bit of a late charge, but not a little too late there, I think.
He's setting a fastest lap on his second lap of those softs. 136.324. Beautiful lap from him. Wow.
Only two drivers left on track. I think Ocean Chief's time was a little bit too slower through the middle sector. I think only at the moment it'll be...
Look at that, those mediums of Joel 8 going second place, Biggles. I mean, 136.893 on mediums. I mean, that just shows you how much pace there still is. These drivers didn't reach their optimal, but in the race, they definitely will.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. What's going to happen, because that's a mixed strategy if you like to go through those results. And Snell Hankey obviously has a 5-place grid position penalty.
Definitely not ideal. I'll run us through the top 5 here. Kierte taking P1 of 136.324. Beautiful. Joel coming in P2. Agatha, P3. P4 goes to Thunders, and P5 goes to Joel. You know what? We can go to the top 10, can't we? We have enough time. Futuristic, P6. Fassel going P7. George, P8. P9 goes to Pineapple. P10 to Snelle, and that is just the top 10, folks. 11... Tidal, Julius, Neo, Dio, and Ocean Chief is 11 through 14. Biggles, this is going to be an amazing race, I do have to say. These drivers, of course, you know, they are extremely skilled. But Singapore is an easy track, and if you get too close to some of those walls, it's going to show.
Yeah, they take no prisoner. They won't send you a Christmas card, and they'll be sending you home, packing with your helmet closed and your head in your shoulders and your head in your palms, perhaps. I don't know. You're also going to have one person who's going to be definitely enjoying that Ferrari bubbly on the top step, because Singapore is one of those nice race tracks to win because it's sweaty, isn't it? It's a proper Monaco, really. Street track. Monaco's just too old. It's just glamour that keeps that track on there, because it's just overtaking is almost impossible. But you can get overtakes done here, which is fantastic. Certainly down Ruffles Boulevard into turn 7.
I have to agree
with that DRS, and there's a couple other places, I believe, maybe into turn 1,
10 as well. Now you can go into turn 10, 11, 12. Can set you up well for turn 13, which is a hairpin. Of course, the chicanes at 16, 17, 18, and 19, 20, and 21. Not as good for overtaking, but if you get them right, they can set you up beautifully for that back straight, and as you said, into turn 1. So the thing about Singapore, as you said, you know, it is a bit of a wider, and a lot faster Monaco. So if these guys can do it, there are some beautiful overtaking opportunities.
Well, if they can, these men can, because these are the Tier 2 and Tier 3 drivers that have been merged together recently to see out the season, of course, which is fantastic. But they are no slouches even from the Tier 1 guys. They are talking about some of the 60 top drivers in the world on pace, on time trial at least. So they can do it, I believe. It's very much possible. It's the same thing. I've even said this before. I mean, not people even understand this, but will know this. But a Formula 1 car was 2 meters wide. Okay, that doesn't change because of track safety and all that sort of jazz. The next DX cars will also be 2 meters. We do know that, but we didn't know that the Baku castle section entrance is 7.2 meters. So in theory, you can get 2 cars side by side through there. In theory,
you could, but is anyone? Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, I have not met anyone brave enough to try and fit more than a car into Baku, into Castle's Corner. It's you could, yes, but like a lot of things, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't, yeah.
Theoretically, you could take a lot of the lap of Singapore at full pace, yes, but you shouldn't.
You'll be wall riding. Now, interesting for the weather forecast. So it was looming around. Well, I guess what, my friend, you might need your umbrella and your poncho even up in the commentary box because thunderstorms are coming. And trust me, I live in Panama. This is 1 degree north of the equator. I'm about 4 or 5 degrees or whatever. North of the equator, and when it thunderstorms in the afternoons and stuff, and obviously in the evening, it buckets down. You've seen it before in the likes of Malaysia, and it can happen. So expect a wet weather ending to this race. Nerves now must be kicking in an overdrive. You're going to have to do the restart, my friend. That is always how it works with the Biggles.
I definitely will, I promise. If you could just check your Discord, please, I would appreciate it. I did just want to ask you something.
Okay. Not in the restart, but in a bit. Maybe on a safety car.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Folks, 14 cars, we have 5 lights, and as they're about to start going red here, we're about to be underway for the Singapore Grand Prix. What do we have? Do we have the first? Yes, we do. Second, third light, fourth light, fifth light. And away we go for the Singapore Grand Prix. Curte getting a decent start. Agatha not so much, already being challenged by Merlin, and Merlin gets past Agatha. Horrible start, but the two Williams of Curte and Agatha, sorry, not Agatha, I was talking about Joel. The two Williams of Curte and Agatha, beautiful start from both of them, now chasing each other down the circuit. That's going to be extremely good, 4 points. Right behind them is Joel in that Red Bull, being hunted down by his fellow Honda car in an AlphaTauri. Of course, Singapore isn't as easy to overtake on, but that AlphaTauri does look like it wants to. We saw overtake there at the back from George, trying to get past the Haas of Levisol. They're going side by side here. Oh, Levisol almost puts George into a wall, but George barely gets through. Now the second McLaren, Pineapple, trying to go for the move on that Haas as well, but he isn't close enough just yet. The Haas fighting back. Can he get back? No, he can't. Of course, the chicane very hard. We've seen Alfa Romeo of SLR Snelle Henke. He got past one of those Mercedes, I believe. Beautiful move from him as well. Let's have a look a bit up the field. So your race leaders after turn 1, and well, not after turn 1, but for lap 1, is Curte, leading from Agatha, but they're both in the Williams, so they might not want to switch position just yet, do they?
No, not quite sure. Fantastic, good race launch start there for your commentary. That's brilliant. You can see at the moment that Agatha up that 1 position, and Joel losing that 1. Even Stevens there for Merlin, and George Ionides up 2. We saw that battle there, and I think there is another one occurring just again. Perhaps it's rebuilding it up there. Different tyre strategies at play too, remember? Everybody, Snell Henke now, down the main straight. Around the outside of the Red Bull, I think it certainly could have been job done, and there he is, up 5 positions. Brilliant drive for the Alfa Romeo already.
I do have to say, I do have to apologize for the start there, folks. The blues of the Williams and the Red Bull are very close to each other. My eyes got mildly confused there for a second. But I do have to, we do have to say, the 2 Mercedes cars are really not doing well. I mean, you know, currently P11, P14 at the back of the grid, not even in the points. This is not what they wanted. You know, Singapore is so much about that turn 1, lap 1. Result, and these guys just not looking at pace at all. So far behind. I mean, Neody already second behind Joel in P10, and Julius already 6 seconds behind Tildy. I mean, I don't know where they're going to find a pace, Biggles, but they need to find that pace urgently, because otherwise those 2 Mercedes are going to be out of the points, and their fellow comrades with that Merc engine, the 2 Williams, might have a good chance.
Neo's had an accident. Sorry to cut you off on that one. Neo's parked it, and speaking of Mercedes, right there, you could just see at the top of your screen, just before the Anderson Bridge. I'll go on board with him, and that's got to be definite some front wing damage for sure.
Funny enough, it doesn't look like it. The front wing looks...
Yeah, look, he's spinning. He's cooked his tyres. That's the problem. Yeah. He's got to relax.
I think that might have been fun.
Calm down, grab a Singapore sling, pour it over the tyres, chill him a little bit. Well, the Haas driver's not chilling.
He's going to need more than just one. He's going to need more than just one. Yeah, but the Haas driver not chilling. 2 temps in front of him. He's wanting to get past the McLaren, but of course, as I said, Singapore not the easiest to overtake on. DRS is enabled this lap. The McLaren weaving. Sol trying for the move. No, he can't. He can't get in turn 1. Goes over the bumps there. Not able to do anything. just yet. Oh, as Henke gets past Pineapple, because Pineapple went way too wide there. Beautiful move from Henke. He's on an absolute amazing start. I mean, he has just been rapid, and he is now 3 positions away from his teammate Futuristic, who's in P5 currently.
And looking good on the tyres too, as Lava does mounts a challenge. It finally does get past Mr. Ironide, so very good for him. And I tell you what, Snell Henke is definitely looking at that as well. But no, it's games.
Look at that! George going past. George challenging now. Oh no! The Haas went wide. The Haas went wide, and now that means Alfa Romeo goes past, and the Orange McLaren goes past. That Haas losing 3 positions there in a span of about 10 or 20 seconds. That shows you how deadly this circuit is, doesn't it? I mean, you know, Singapore, it's punishing, and you know, he touched a curb there, went a bit wide, and everyone just got past him. I mean, that's amazing, Biggles, isn't it?
Super lucky not to be bidding it into a wall with that battling as well. I did see a bit of carbon fiber a little bit earlier. I'm not quite sure for one of those cars. Maybe they're a little bit of a tangle and someone's going to be suffering a bit. 1 second, I have to have a sneeze.
Oh, okay. We do have to talk about the team game at Williams. They're not playing it at all. Kurte now breaking a second on his teammate Agatha, meaning that Agatha is now in DRS range of Joe, and he is extremely vulnerable. There's 4 attempts in it. DRS is now enabled. Is the Red Bull going to pull out for a move? Is he going to? No, he didn't, but he was extremely close. You know, Kurte not playing a team game here at all, and that's, you know, if him and Agatha are in the voice chat, they have to tell each other, listen, you need to keep me in DRS range, otherwise this bull is going to overtake me, and it is not going to be a very bright day. Will the Red Bull go for a move now? No, he doesn't. Just doesn't have that straight line speed quite that Williams does. Sorry, and not being able to move to make a move this lap.
But still he did. Around George.
Did he?
Well, he's not just quite over just yet, but it is side by side. He will have the inside line here. He'll have to force the McLaren a little wide. The McLaren has gone wide. Has the McLaren got damage from that? As now his teammate there, and now Lavi is in this mix.
I mean, these few guys are going to be together for ages, because as you saw there, what happened is Sally kind of, you know, almost pushed George into a wall. George went, you know, then went to the other side and almost pushed his teammate, the Roggedy Pineapple, into a wall, as we see that McLaren of the Roggedy Pineapple making a move on George. Did he get it right? No, he didn't. Okay, no, he was there, but he didn't get it. That's absolutely amazing, isn't it? I mean, this battle, you know, them battling, of course, is now giving Henke, it's giving him overly enough time to get away. So Henke is now out of that battle, which he's going to be relieved about. As we see Pineapple getting a 3-second time penalty from multiple warnings. I assume that's for track limits. Yeah, you know, I don't know about you, Biggles, but I mean, Henke getting out of that situation and just, you know, being ahead, he has to be so glad.
Sorry, there's a run. There's a run on Joel, on Agatha, and yes, he has. The Red Bull down the main straight. Classic one-on-one overtake has got the job done. Now Merlin's going to be thinking about this back in P4. Says, I can see that. I see how you can get the job done. Oh, Agatha's really struggling with the rear tyres now on 4 laps, and it looks like George has dropped back further. George has gone around somewhere. He's spun.
So those softs are going to be dead now, aren't
not working for him. Merlin, but this is where the crossover point between the mediums and softs are coming at play. As you can see, Merlin can clearly drive around the outside. Agatha now struggling massively. Needs to get rid of these tyres, otherwise he's going to be, well, too futuristic and Snell Henke. Not too far down the road there. Ocean Chief, it looks like, having a bit of a switcheroo there. They're on the hard tyres, can go deep. Maybe a good strategy as well, too, with the rain lurking. Can go to the rain with just a one stop. These other drivers are going to have to box buck before the rain comes, and that's a big if.
That is a beautiful strategy, but the only problem is they are so far behind, you know. The leaders can now make a pit stop, and they won't come out that far behind those 2 hard runners. So yes, the hards are a good strategy, but in terms of the leaders gapping them, it isn't as good as they would have wanted it. Other thing I do want to talk about still is Merlin Thunders. Of course, you know, getting past, well, not getting past, he pitted. But I mean, you know, those two Honda engines, of course, you know, we are running equal performance, but they have to be celebrating. P2 and P3, they're chasing down Kurte, who's on those softs. I mean, they have to be pretty happy, aren't they, Biggles? I mean, that's some good positions if you're on the mediums chasing the soft runner.
For sure. And the soft runners currently at the moment I'm getting from the tyre performance graphics, which I can't unfortunately show you today because I can't slap the button on my iPad quickly to do it. I don't want to pause the stream every time. But they are, from my telemetry data, around the 50s. So they are definitely into the... Yeah, you don't want to gamble with those barriers when you don't have the traction and the power coming in and out of the corners, because all of a sudden your race could very much be over. But I'm glad to see we still have 14 of the Gladiators racing here at the moment. A few of them replacing parts, no doubt there. Both of the McLarens dropping all the way down the bottom. Joel had to go back to the pits there and fix his car after he had another few moments.
I go for getting a penalty. Sorry, I go for getting a penalty now down in P5. Sorry, I have to correct myself. He didn't pit, but he did lose three positions there from P2. Agathon not having a very good race, losing all his positions, still on those softs, as you said, very high Warren already. Yeah, he's not in great position, but neither is his teammate Kurte, who has now only an 8/10 gap behind him to Joel. That's 4/10 now. Can Joel catch him? No, he doesn't, but I believe if Kurte doesn't pit in this at the end of this lap, yeah, he is going to get overtaken by that Red Bull, isn't he?
Absolutely, he'll get him down the main straight. If you get a good exit before 22 and 23, that should be taking candy from an Alpine baby, as they would say. Unfortunately for the Alpine driver, it's just a different
from
strategy.
A Williams baby.
A Williams,
Williams
sorry, yeah,
baby.
it's a Williams baby. My apologies on that one, yes. But that's because he's boxing, and he is boxing right now. So he has to cover him off, otherwise he'll lose too much time. And what's going to happen back there now? Merlin is looking pretty pacey. They are same tyres, remember, between those two cars, the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull. Once again, both powered by Honda, you mentioned. And that's also bringing Mr. Futuristic and Snell Henke in together there for the teammates that can start to work together. But Snell's a little bit down the road. But remember, Snell started in P14, so he's made his way all the way back up to P4 and a brilliant drive so far. Rain still lurking in about 30 minutes. Thunderstorms are lurking in 30 minutes. And
I do have to ask, what are tire graphs looking like on those mediums? Because if the rain is coming in 30 minutes, theoretically, those mediums could last. It's going to be extremely hard, but it is possible for those mediums to make it till the rain comes.
You're right. The hard drivers can, and I'm looking at both of them, Tilde and Ocean Chief. It's just kind of a bit of a lonely race starting 10 and 13 down there, but with that different strategy, obviously could pay off as a good strategy. They are currently sitting at about 15 to 16 seconds from our race leader. Pit stop around here is 26 seconds. So they will clear the leaders, but they'll also have these very old tyres. But that's it. Once again, if they choose to go in when the rain starts to come down, then they're all even Stevens at that point when it comes to tyres, because they're all going to be either on inters or wets. So that's the interesting call.
I was referring to the mediums, how long those mediums.
Yeah, I'm getting back to that. Getting back to
that.
that.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I said the wrong thing. Do apologise. Continue.
No, you're
Mr.
okay.
Biggles.
You're okay, because I was just thinking about that other strategy with the weather forecast. But currently at the moment, about 27% for those mediums on the right-hand side would be, give or take, what the most drivers will have on average. So yes, they can go pretty far. The right-hand side obviously is the one that takes the most amount of punishment, because more of the corners are to your left. So puts the lateral load on the right tyres. They're only, because the front left is the one that is really the baby, the one that can handle the most. I was just trying to think of a reference to the Three Bears or something like that with Goldilocks. Did not work out, but hey, it will next time for commentating for sure. And that's what practice makes perfect. Failures also make you get better. So Joel back in the pits again. He is really missing Jeffrey down there. It's just like that third time. Actually, yes, it is the third time a man's visited the pits and a new front wind change. He's lucky he's not in a Haas car, because they probably don't have any spare parts left.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason you have to be sensitive with those Haas cars. But to be quite fair, the Haas car in this league is not performing too bad. P5 around Singapore, he doesn't have wing damage, doesn't have any damage of sorts. That is where you want to be. The interesting thing for me is, why is Kirti on the softs? I don't know whether he doesn't know when the weather is.
No, yeah, it's a two-stop, it's a pit stop strategy. It could work out brilliantly for him, because he knows that the rain's coming, but he knows that
the range. Those softs should still wear out before that rain.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Remember, they're a little bit lighter on fuel. He's 4% on those softs already, mate. So it's barely new. Obviously, they're only one lap. Could be praying a safety car here, and he will drive around the outside of Julius for sure because he's maximising those tyres, but he will have to box again, as we know. But then again, I think everybody will have to box with that rain coming, so when is going to be the key? Who's going to get it at the right time and try the undercut or overcut? Because we all know it's tricky in the wet conditions. They've had a taste of it during the qualifying, but they've only had a taste of the interconditions. Have they had a taste of the full wets? As Snelly's caught Futuristic and lapped him, overtaken him. So, team orders at play. Yeah.
Taken. I mean, at this point, you know, these teams are going to have a look at Biggles. You know, they're going to have a look at who has the most pace. You know, if someone has enough pace to catch Merlin and Joel in the front, they have to play that game. And currently, it does look like Henke has that pace. You know, he's already pulled quite clear of Futuristic. So I think, you know, team orders in that situation, not even a problem. You know, saying, listen, you have more pace. Let's see what we can do. Let's see how much we can optimize this race and get as many points as we can. Definitely not even a question.
Yeah, you're right. We'll keep an eye on his times currently at the moment, as some drivers are going faster and faster with some of the new tyres, and or not. Mr. Pineapple.
Yeah, they're obviously Pineapple.
We've lost Neo Dio. That was a retirement in the pits there for the Mercedes, so definitely another set of headphones have been smashed into the floor from Toto Wolff. I think the teams are now packing some extra ones there. But yeah.
I mean, if he was a second driver, he might not have, Toto Wolff might not care enough to smash a set of headphones. But whoever the team boss is won't be too happy. You know, Julius, both Mercedes, first of all, getting overtaken by the Williams, which we won't see in real life, probably. But what is amazing to think about is the fact that, you know, it's always, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's always in the leagues, the teams who are the most underrated are usually the teams who perform the best. Because I don't know if you've seen it, but I've been noticing it. The fastest people usually choose the cars that are meant to be the slowest. And that's usually how it works. As we see the Haas of Sol getting past Futuristic as Futuristic pits, it's a bit early for a pitting, isn't it, Biggles? I mean,
he must have damage. He must have damage. I'm just trying to see, because it's only about 36%.
Yes,
yeah, front wing change.
It is.
It had to be, because it's too early. The tyres weren't even at 40s, and you wouldn't be boxing with that rain looming in the background if you can make it stretch it out. Kurte, the man on a mission, obviously is starting to. He's the fastest man on track in P7. He's lapping in 140s. Everybody's in the 142s, 43s. Leaders in 141s, the late 141s. Snell Henke's not been able to match the pace of the leaders. He's actually dropping a little bit back from them now after he's been released by his teammate who made that pit stop just before. And the McLaren of Julius. Sorry, go ahead.
But I would say Kurte is pitting, but him getting held up by that AlphaTauri in front of him, and then of course in front of the AlphaTauri is the Williams. So wait, is that Alpine? Give me a sec. Alpine. You know, getting held up by those two, that is going to absolutely ruin his tires. His only job is now to get past them, because if he doesn't, it's staying behind the car like, oh, as I get very close there. Kurte getting very close to Ocean Chief there. Yeah. Kurte needs to get past them, because otherwise those softs will be ruined, and it just won't be any fun for him when it Biggles.
Yeah, you're right. 18% now his softs are after he put them on, and that's 2 laps that it's showing. So that's starting to get somewhere pretty easy, and that dirty is horrible for him. Ocean Chief is not one of the easiest. If you've been following this season all along, he's not an easy man to get past, and this is a difficult track to get past. So I think at the moment, Kurte really has to just get the launch of a century once again around here now and try to use that DRS advantage. And we know Ocean Chief's going to park that car in all the right places. He does. Look at that. He's moved to the center there to try to cover him off. So now Kurte has to go to the inside. The outside. He decides, okay, around the outside. Can he make those tires stick? Yes, he can. And he's got the job done.
But did he do it too late? Did he, with 18% wear, almost 20 now, I assume, was that move too late? Did Ocean Chief just hold him up enough to protect his teammate Merlin up in P2?
Certainly does. They work really good together as a team, and you know, Ocean Chief has been around the block a few times to know how to work well as a team. If you can see the gap to leader currently at the moment, well, Kurte is 23.2, so that's going to be really on the bubble for a pit stop if Joel comes in and out, if Kurte wants to try to get ahead. But the rain now looming 10 minutes time. It's showing the thunderstorms are backing off a little bit, so the rain will come down a little easier than bucket down, but it's still showing in about 30 minutes time heavy thunderstorms. But 10 minutes time, you're going to start seeing some drops of rain.
rain around Singapore is horrible. No matter how you play it, rain around Singapore, doesn't matter how heavy or how light it is absolutely horrid. And I don't think these drivers would want rain in the slightest, but hey, they're getting it. It's like a free gift, isn't it?
It's coming one way or another.
Yeah, if they like it or not, they're getting socks for their Christmas present. That's basically the equivalent, isn't it? But yeah, Kirsten now sizing up Tilde. He might get him on the straight here. Extremely close to Tilde. Tilde not making his car as wide as Ocean Chief did, but still wide enough so that Williams can't fit through on these, on these corners, I assume. Kirsten will now have the DRS down the main straight. Let's have a look. Is he going to be able? Yes, he does. Is inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside. He didn't even pull out. He didn't think he had the pace to pull out. Gonna stay another lap behind that Alpine, and that's for two reasons, Biggles. Either he feels confident enough that he can get past somewhere else, or those softs have started to show some serious wear, and he doesn't know if he can keep up with the rest of the field anymore. Yeah. So. As Futuristic there sets fastest lap 140, I believe that was. Yeah, so let's see if those what the softs can do. Yes, he gets past quite comfortably, but oh no! Wait, the Alpine goes. Oh, but that was off track. That was off track. I think the steward's gonna have a look into that because Tilde did get past there, but now Tilde makes it easy and Kirti gets past. Yeah, I think the steward's gonna have a look at that. But hey, Kirti's through. Maybe a bit maybe a bit later than he would have wanted. But hey, you know it's happened. You can't complain. It has happened. It's gone through.
Yep. Mr. Michael Massey, this is called motor racing. So
that was my favorite moment from the weekend. Toto complaining and Michael's just like, Toto, we went motor racing.
Didn't Toto sound? I mean, I love Toto. Did he sound like a baby? Like Michael, no, Michael. I mean, a lot of that was very debatable and a bit stupid. I think on the fact that the FIA can really be talking to the teams, because I was saying the other day in the stream, if that was on a football match in a World Cup final, red card, you're out of here. Even for the referees, stuff like that in sports, don't they? They can get expelled from matches, technicals. No, I
do have to agree. Of course, you know, F1 is a completely other sport. But you know, at that point, I think you know, Michael had to send out the safety car. What happened after it? You know, of course, that's really debatable. But the start, you know, when the safety car came out, you know, we did also, I think, hear Total Wolf saying, you know, he told Michael, oh, please don't bring out a safety car. And, you know, I think at that point, you know, Michael Massey, he had to bring out a safety car. There were stewards on sorry, not stewards. There were people on the track that were cleaning up Nicholas Latifi. So I don't think they had any chance.
Of course.
I think that safety car had to, like, yeah,
safety.
It was. I heard that and I was like, Toto, you do realize there are people out on track, right? Like,
he doesn't care. It's like any team principles. You're thinking of your team and your team only. You're not thinking about the safety of others, safety of the marshals and stuff like that, which is exactly what Michael's thinking about. Michael, just like me, I mean, I'm sure Michael's in that very professional, and I don't care who wins the race. It's entertaining. I'm not a Max fan. I'm not a Hamilton. I'm actually a Max and Hamilton fan. They're both fantastic drivers. But who wins? I don't care. Oh, yeah. There's no conspiracy as well. Michael Massey's not the one sitting there going, oh, I want this team to win. He didn't give a shit. He's thinking about the safety of the sport for everybody. Because, of course, if somebody does come around and kill a marshal, the FIA are in big, big trouble.
And I mean, not even the FIA, you know, the FIA at that point, you know, are trying to, you know, protect the team as well, because, you know, if that team hears that, you know, a who not driver, you know, ran over one of their family members, if a family hears that, you know, of course they're going to sue the FIA, but they're also going to sue that team. So, you know, the FIA, what happened after, you know, letting cars through, I think that might have, you know, been so, you know, that those two could race. But one or the other, what happened is very controversial, but safety, yeah, it was a first, and we could see that. But what we can see as well is Agatha now behind Tilde. Sorry, Bagels, I just wanted to throw it back onto our race.
Yeah, no, there's two battles going on, because there's a battle at the front getting very spicy as well.
See, Merlin has been behind Joel for quite a bit, and he hasn't tried anything. So I'm thinking, just bear with me. I'm thinking that Merlin is purposefully staying behind Joel, waiting till Joel pits, and maybe just copying him play by play. Because we did see that in those wet conditions, anything can happen. Oh, as I say that, Joel, big snap of oversteer on that back end, loses it completely, and that gives a closer gap to Merlin, but not close enough.
Well, the biggest problem right now, with the drivers is that the tyres are baking about 52% in the rears. They're struggling. And now...
look at Tildy! Oh my... Oh! Tildy going off there. Oh, that was horrible. And just letting Agatha through. That was extremely scary. I thought for a second he didn't ghost and Agatha drove into him. But luckily he didn't. That was extremely scary there for a second, wasn't it?
It was. I don't know if he got any damage. I kind of missed. I just got the end of that one, so at least you got that. The tyres are struggling because this is the problem. This is the danger zone right now. If you are a Top Gun in this sport, your tyres are on their limit. You can see the struggling that the drivers are doing to keep this car on the track, but they can't box now because the rain is 5 minutes away. You've got to eke it out because if you box now, put some dryers on, and then you're going to come back in again, you've just lost another pit stop to go to the wets, so the inters, so now you've just got to, I don't know, fight this car, battle this car. Just call your car, calm your car down, call it some woman's name or something like Sebastian Vettel does and stuff. But just talk to it gently. Say, come on, baby, just a couple more laps. Let's get around this track, 23 of the corners, until that rain comes, and then we're going to jump in.
I think the cars will be screaming themselves. But yeah, no, as you said, these drivers have to be so careful now. Because, as Joel said, or as we saw with Joel, those rear tires just giving up and just saying, I can't race anymore. I've been, my lifetime has passed. This is fine. I'm ready to get off with. So it's gonna be interesting to see, because I think that might be, why someone like Merlin hasn't mounted an attack yet, is because either he doesn't have the confidence in the tires, or he knows that Joel's tires, Joel who's constantly pushing, trying to stay away from that AlphaTauri, his Joel's tires might be done as we see him get a 3-second penalty, and that is basically the lead gone for him now. But he does have to keep it, because once that safety car comes in, or sorry, not the safety car, once the rain comes in, we're hoping not for a safety car this race, once that rain comes in, it's going to be any man for himself, every man for himself, and then that 3-second penalty can become almost nothing.
Oh, late safety car will absolutely destroy it to a penalty. I was just about to say the penalty before that message came up. I was going to say Joel's on 2 warnings. So that's the one thing that perhaps Merlin is aware of and is playing that game of sitting behind there trying to force Joe into a mistake. Sometimes the one, you're chasing a car down, it's more pressure for that car to be ahead. However, Merlin also picked up his first warning, so he's still looking okay. Some of the other drivers back there, of Kurte and Agatha, both of the Williams drivers are the Alpine drivers are nursing 2 warnings each. So I have to be very, very careful at that because, safety cars are inevitable around here. Every single Formula 1 Grand Prix has had a safety car, and there's a good chance that we could have a full safety car. Haven't had one yet, surprisingly enough, with only one retirement, and that's Neo Dio in the pit lane retirement. So once the rain starts to come and that track starts to get slippery,
I see, because I do apologize, I see raindrops on the helicam.
Yeah, it's coming, mate.
I see raindrops on the helicam.
It's coming.
I think, ladies and gents, I think the rain is, it's Joel, you said it is coming, but I think this rain, it's doing more, it's here. And these drivers, give it I'd say 3 more laps, and then it's going to be time for inters.
But the tyres are
screaming. No, you want 3 more laps, then it's going to... What happened?
The lava's gone around, I think. Lava's gone around because the tyres are screaming. They're in punishment territory. They're in 60% on the rights. And now, once again, it's just got to get that car around a couple more laps before the rain is definitely the crossover point. You can see that now.
Rain is
the spray.
Now. Well, not buffeting.
There's thunderstorms coming. I told you the thunderstorm's coming. And look at that. Joel's not taking any gamble, and it's straight in. Merlin follows him. I'd expect that Snell, probably 15 seconds down the road, is going to have to do this. As his tyres are screaming.
I do have to say, I think that was the smartest play. The thing about Singapore is, yes, you can say a pit stop is too early, but rather, as DRS gets disabled now, that is officially our crossover point, ladies and gents. Joel and Merlin here, because I think they have played it to absolute perfection.
Snelly hasn't. He's in trouble. He's in big trouble by staying out one more lap. He's just dropping time left, right, and center like a 1929 stock exchange. He's got to get that car around, and there it is. The gamble is not paid off for the Dutchman at all, and that's going to cost him as Joel and everybody get around him right now. Yeah, well, That's hurt. I did think his teammates in the pits, but they did have enough gap, so there wasn't a worry about a double stack. It's just, yeah, staying out one more lap as Jeffrey cost it. As Lava's gone around someone, they're all in the box at the moment. You've got to get in that pit lane right now because I told you, the rain was coming. It's thunderstorming in about 10 minutes. And we're just
I said 3 laps.
Yeah.
I said 3 laps. It was 1 lap. It was like half a lap, and then the rain was just starting to bucket down. I mean, you know, the weather in Singapore, of course, you know, in real life as well, you know.
Sorry to cut you off there. I was going to say, I thought Julius came back out on medium tyres, but he's just entering the pit lane right now. Sorry to cut you off.
I was just about to say, that was scary for a second. I saw that as well, and I was like, Julius, what are you doing? Yeah, someone gets on softs now. I'm gonna absolutely tear myself apart. But yeah, no, honestly, I think, you know, we were talking about the battle for the lead here a bit ago, Biggles, between Joel and Merlin. And I think Merlin's strategy might not have paid off because it looks like Joel is putting in amazing time on those inters, and Merlin just cannot compete. He just can't stay with. And that's definitely going to be extremely bad for him. We see, I don't want to have a look at Henke now. He must be really relieved. Of course, he is dropping time everywhere, and he's probably going to be last of the field. Maybe? We'll have a look where he comes out. But he is getting onto the final few corners right now. It hasn't rained here as much as it has in the rest of the track. That's just the weather circulating. But yeah, Henke, he now needs to. I mean, he's probably screaming to pit, isn't he?
Oh, of course,
I mean,
no front wing.
Yeah.
He's tippy-toeing around this track right now, trying to just keep it completely out of the barriers for a DNF. He'd be so thankful to see that pit lane. Got to make sure that pit lane entrance is very, very careful there. Also slap the brakes, 60 kilometre an hour speed lane. He does it well. Front wing change will drop him back probably around P6, maybe just ahead of his teammate. Certainly going to cost him a bit. I'm just looking at
if he could get out in the top 10, I think he will be more than thankful. That's all he needs, the top 10, because he's put up an amazing fight so far, and he needs to continue that fight.
His teammate's coming around the main straight right now, so he will overtake him. What about Ocean Chief? That's the key, isn't it? He wants to get out ahead of this man.
Which he won't?
He won't, no, because he's exiting the pit lane right now and loses actually to 2 of those drivers, of Lavi, who's battling it out really close at the back there of Ocean Chief. And remember, Mr. Ocean Chief started this race on the hard tyres and switched over to the inters on that weather conditions. And this man, Lavi, did 17 laps on the mediums and somehow managed to just be lucky to get in that pit lane and slap on.
We do know.
Yeah.
We do know that Lavi has amazing pace. So I think this AlphaTauri won't be too much of a challenge for him. He does have extremely good pace. You know, we did see him contender, I think it was for P4, P5 earlier. So yeah, Lavi, he has the pace. He can do this. I think we're going to see a lot from him. That's all I'm going to say. We're still going to see a lot from that man.
But Ocean Chief, once again, is a very difficult driver to get past. And now, we saw Ocean Chief get past before, but that was because the tyres were much better for the other driver. In this case now, that's even Stevens. So Lavi being a quick driver, Ocean Chief being the best blocker, will be interesting to see what happens. No DRS as well to aid you in the overtaking this evening.
Lavi almost touches a wall there. Lavi, let's not take unnecessary risks. Let's not touch a wall, please. Thanks. But yeah, no, absolutely amazing from these two. You know, really good battles. I mean, Ocean Chief, as I said, he's almost a master defender. So really, really well done to him. You know, extremely well, extremely good racing that we see. Pineapple now getting a 3-second penalty. He's already down in P2. I mean, poor guy, he's already down to P12. He's out of the points and he gets another penalty. He needs to, or he gets a penalty. He needs to start watching his track limits. As Lavi gets a penalty as well. So he needs to get past that AlphaTauri now, doesn't he?
Fighting in the dirty air does do that for sure. So yes, of course he does. There's still plenty of time. A late safety car is definitely going to hurt them even more, the ones serving penalties. And expect a few more penalties coming because the track, even though it's a lot slower and getting slower, because once again, I told you that thunderstorms are coming in 10 minutes time. So that means we could be in for another pit stop here for the wets. Now, it takes quite a bit, doesn't it, for the track? You need to start seeing puddles forming, at least in the game, when it gets to that, okay, maybe we go to wet conditions. Otherwise, you could end up into those barriers and this could be race over. So it's still plenty of racing to go, believe it or not. We're just approaching lap 20 and we have 11 crazy weather conditions to go. They're sweating it out inside the car because it's humid as blisteringly humidity in Singapore. I know that from Panama's humidity. And, well, they're just losing, like, kilograms of fuel, of fluids right now, as they're probably happy to have a little bit of cold rain, or coldish rain, cool them down a little bit inside those cockpits while they go tooth and nail for 11 more laps.
11 laps might not sound a lot, but I mean, because, you know, around here, 11 laps, it's not easy, especially in the wet conditions.
It's 2 minutes a lap almost that they're doing right now. Like, you know, they're doing 154s, 155s. Now, remember, back in dry conditions, that's a 140. So you're talking almost 20 seconds a lap slower. So that brings the race a lot slower as well. So, yeah, 11 laps at 2 minutes a lap.
Another DNF. As we get another DNF from Pineapple. Sorry,
yeah,
I just
wonder where that was.
That.
Trying to see.
I'm trying to see as well, but he just...
The pit lane
DNF,
somewhere.
Was it a pit lane?
Yeah.
I'm currently on board with Joel, trying to ride with him. And,
no, he's not anywhere on the track map, as you can see.
You know.
So, no, it's car's already back in the pit lane. It won't bring a safety car out. Ooh, we could actually have a full race without a safety car as we're watching Larvi really struggling, even probably getting a warning there, cutting the corner. Ocean Chief doing his job that he does best, blocking everybody, holding everybody up.
Ocean Chief can really start maybe giving classes on how to defend, because he is extremely good at it. But now, up at the front, Merlin, he is struggling to face 3 second gap between him and Joel. But Joel, as far as I'm concerned, has a penalty, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I'll show those penalties for you guys out there. 3, 3, 3, 3, and 3. All the threes. And that will be, obviously, your Rolex time penalty award, because if they did have a Rolex slapped on their wrist, then they would be on time all the time, every time. So that's what the drivers need. Obviously, it's not bad to take that Rolex time penalty award prize home with you if you get the most time penalties, because once again, that's what Rolex reminds you of, to, mate. Have the best watch that there is, and you will not get those penalties. So, yep, I'm trying for that one. I'm trying, and it will happen. We know DHL has the fastest lap award, but I do want to see sometime in the future F1 and Rolex sponsoring that. Although in the real F1, of course, they don't get time penalty awards like this. But why not sponsor the esports like that, Rolex?
Exactly.
I have approached them about that idea, by the way, so whether their marketing team will get back to me, we'll find out. Hey, no harm in asking, that's all I can say.
Have you actually sent them an email and said, listen,
yes, I have, of course.
I have an idea?
Yeah, I try, my friend. You'd be surprised that what happens when you do reach out. I mean, I'd expect anything to really happen at the end of the day, but hey, there's no harm in asking. You never know if they turn around and go, that's actually a great idea, and we'll get behind it, and here's a free Rolex for you, Biggles. Thank you.
Imagine. You know, okay, listen, I don't want to say it sounds like we're sponsored by Rolex, but it does at this point. Biggles sound like you're sponsored by Rolex.
I'm trying.
Yeah. No, listen, that's all you need. If you mention their name enough times, eventually it'll happen. But see, Joel's job now, he needs to pull a 3 second gap on Merlin behind him. Otherwise, Merlin just, basically has the lead of the race. But Merlin, on the other hand, has a job of staying within 3 seconds of Mr. Joel, who is extremely fast. So, both in extremely hard situations, quite literally the hunter and the prey. We'll see how that unfolds, but I hope this race doesn't come down to penalties. Merlin, if you can get a penalty yourself, just 3 seconds, and we can see a
Don't tell him that. He's on one warning, my friend, and doing a pretty good, solid job there. Just keeping within that 2.8, 3 second gap. He's got plenty of time on his side. We have 11 laps. Once again, we're lapping him 154s now, slowing down about half a second to a second a lap now because the rain is getting heavier and heavier. So no doubt they're struggling to find more and more traction. I was also featured in the DHL Commentators Challenge as the last person in the first round. They featured me there because, of course, of course, mate. I had the right line at the right time. It was perfect. I don't know what anybody else thought of it. I said, and that's how you deliver a fast lap around Austria, of course. And they used the DHL logo on that one. Why would you not? So yeah, I've got DHL. I got DHL on my side. Let's see if I can get Rolex on my side.
You already.
Larby is still tucked up behind Ocean Chief. Can't do anything about it, Merlin there. So it's a quiet stage of this race. But this is now the difficult part that I told you, because when I said those thunderstorms are coming, they are 5 minutes' time. 5 minutes' time, it's going to be heavier. Believe it or not, it's actually going to start drying up towards the end of the race. And we have a local yellow, and that looks like Snell Hankey. Snell Hankey's gone around.
Oh.
This is a sign. He's a very good Dutch driver. He's very quick. It's a sign. He's got to wait now. There is the Alpine. Ooh.
Ghosting, it's ghosting. Ghosting works. I do want to point something out. We did see Joel 8, the leader of this race, get past his teammate Joel, who's in P12. I'm not quite sure if this is good or a bad race for Red Bull, because they only have one of the cars in the points, but that one car is leading the race. So I'm not quite sure whether they would classify it as a good or a bad race. But yeah, no, as you said, this is the tricky part of the race. You know, the weather only getting heavier and heavier. And the thing is, one of these guys, either Joel or Merlin Biggles, is going to have to pull the trigger before the other one and say, listen, I'm going to pit for these wets. I'm going to take the gamble. Because, you know, of course, there is quite a difference between the wets and the Inter's performance. The wets clearing, I want to make sure I get this right. I think it's something like 86 liters.
Yeah, that's about right.
On their tire surface.
It's about a bathtub, something like that.
It's really a lot. But I mean, you know, it's so whoever's gonna pull this trigger first, it's gonna change this whole race. That's all I'm gonna say. You know,
Ocean Chief getting really twirly-whirly coming out of that corner, trying to defend Lavi. Still, as they go down what's into turn 14, and there's a lot of spray on the visor. It makes it very difficult too, isn't it? If you're using a racing line and stuff like that, that you got to spot your braking points. But can you see your braking points when you're tucked up behind that car? Because your arrows there of where you're supposed to brake a little earlier and stuff like that, you can barely see the braking board markers as well. Obviously, I think some of these drivers do have their graphics turned down a little bit, so it makes it a little easier for them to see. Oh, as Lavi goes a little twirly. Yeah, this is getting wet, my friend, because they're struggling. They are absolutely struggling. I told you it's getting wetter and wetter. They're doing a fantastic job. Joel, once again, well, as you said, well, I'd say bring the car home, and why not? Because, you know, you've committed this time, and you don't get that much practice. We know drivers do sometimes practice in the wet and stuff like that, but these are changeable conditions. And the more practice you get, the better it'll help you for your future driving, because you can't plan or script this stuff in a league race. You just got to go with it. And if you just say, you know what, I'm out of the points, retire, you've also retired from the fact you got this great experience. So bring the car home. As Snell Hankey's boxing, I think he might have got damage.
I do have to agree. One thing I do have to say is, you know, I still race in leagues. Back on F1 2020, when that was still, you know, the main game, I was partaking in the league, and funnily enough, you know, my team specifically, I was part of AlphaTauri and Red Bull, you know, promoted from AlphaTauri to Red Bull because I had such good pace. But at that point, you know, the team managers would have us do full race simulation. So they would match the you know, conditions of what the race would be, and then they would just put the weather on randomize, and they'd say, listen, do that. You're doing upwards of 5 to 10. So you're doing anywhere between 5 to 10 race simulations, and you're doing it so that we can, you know, be prepared for absolutely everything. And you know, it takes a lot of time, but believe me, that is, you know, it prepped me for a lot of the situations. And I think these drivers, you know, of course, they're in Tier 2, they're not going to be preparing as well. But once you get up to Tier 1 and it gets a bit more serious, I think, you know, end of the day, it might be worth for them, you know, to start doing something like that, to start putting that amount of effort in, because you need it.
You're absolutely right. And one thing as well, too, it's bucketing down in Singapore. We've had to close the window on the commentary box because of the angle of the way that rain is coming in. And look at that. They've dropped about 2 or 3 seconds a lap now, just struggling. Visually on the screen there, it's just horrendously, it's almost like a typhoon has started to arrive here, 1 degree north of the equator. And you only have 1,600 light bulbs illuminating also all the rain droplets as well to make it throw a spanner in the mix. You're exactly right. Well, there was also a driver too that got accepted the other day that I was commentating for in many, many races as well. I'll give him a bit of a shout out there. Luke Smith, probably you guys would be aware of him. I've seen him in certain leagues. He's been accepted the Alpine Junior Academy for esports, which is fantastic. And on top of it, I said to him, like, you know, you were leading the race. You dominated one of those races recently. But I said one thing you got fantastic skills and advantage for was you had to do 3 safety car restarts. And that is something you can't practice by yourself in time trials. You have to be in a race, racing drivers that are as quick as you, and those race restarts over and over again help you. And once again, you can't rehearse that sort of stuff. So even being in a race where, you've dominated and you can win, that's going to help him in his future adventure in esports. And now the puddles, my friend, are forming on the track, which goes to indication, to me, it's wet conditions. But with 6 laps to go, who will gamble?
I honestly, gambling right now, it's either going to go really well or it isn't going to well at all. And that's the thing, that's the scary thing, is do these drivers, try it? Do they go for it? And I guess we'll see. But as you said, you have closed the windows. I have actually put on my raincoat, just if it does start raining in. So we'll see. Hopefully, hopefully this is the max amount of rain. But I can tell you, these drivers are struggling. I mean, I'm currently looking at Merlin Biggles. If you can get on board with him.
Yep.
And I mean, he isn't a bad driver, right? We have seen some extremely good pace out of him. But I mean, the lines he's taking, he's locking up those tires sometimes. He can't take the same lines that he would normally. He's getting extremely close to the walls, almost closer than he would like to be. And the pace just isn't there anymore. Joel is a bit better, finding a bit more pace, but I mean, they're struggling. They're really struggling. We see Merlin there, lifting off the throttle. He gets on it and then says, "No, the backend's gonna go. I need to, I need to." Go onto it softer. And that's the thing is for these drivers,
Snell's in the wall.
The fact that we haven't...
Snelly's in the wall.
Oh, I just saw...
Oh, there's a reset the track there. Not quite sure if that was allowed. Well, Joe's too far down the road, so I don't think that was really going to affect anything. But not having a very good day for the Just driver. I have to say, we have to go back to this battle, but I know what you mean exactly, because keep an eye on that one. George has caught the back there of Lavi, who's still tucked up by an Ocean Chief. Well, we know how difficult it is to overtake around this track, but you doubt the DRS and barely can see anything ahead. Puddles on the track and a handful of laps to go, but it's taking forever to get these laps done because they're lapping at 155s and 156s. And George now has got to think of an overtake as Julius gets a penalty.
Yeah, no, it honestly... But see, the thing is, as I said, I don't think he wants to think of overtake because it's so horrendous to drive. He just can't get on the throttle. He doesn't trust his braking. If you have a look at how he's driving, oh no, oh my word, Lavi there was going very slow and George tapped him. I hope George doesn't have any front wing damage because of that. And now Ocean Chief and basically everyone getting past Futuristic. Oh my, George making the lunge there up Lavi, and he is past. But why did Futuristic get so slow? Do you know, Biggles?
I don't know. He must have made an error somewhere. Must have made an error somewhere. It's tricky conditions like now. Wouldn't be a problem for him to have a tank sliper on the wall or go around somewhere. But now he's in this mix, in this battle. Ocean Chief, P5, P6, Futuristic, George, and Lavi. All right, so George got past Lavi on that one when he was behind.
George going for another move on Futuristic. Yes, he does get it. Look at that. Sorry, I do apologize, Biggles.
Yes.
George,
it's on the outside of Lavi. So I'd have to say there that there's definitely damage there for Futuristic. There has to be, because he's dropped, he's in the pit lane, he's lost an end plate. That is the reason why he's dropped those places left, right, center. Yeah, he's hit the wall somewhere. Sorry, who?
This is where Lavi, he always lost it as he got on the throttle. He almost spun on himself. But as we saw it, I mean, George, amazing driving for him. He is so confident with that McLaren, and I don't know how, because, being that confident, it takes something else. But Futuristic and are going onto those wet tires.
Yeah, front wing change and wet tires. Yeah, go ahead.
There's only 6 laps left, but Henke also on the wet tires. I'm telling you, Biggles, those wet tires, I think even if there are still 6 laps racing, 5 laps, well, basically 5 because Joel's going to cross, 5 laps left, these drivers have to be considering those wets, especially Merlin and Joel.
They will. They will. Let's go aboard with Snell Hank, because you're as a driver. Tell me how that feels, because I'm aboard him right now. He's not locking up into these corners. He's looking like this car is on rails. How do you think it is handling for the Alfa Romeo?
I mean, Henke, well, we don't have to wonder. Why? Because we can see a steering wheel. I mean, he has amazing rotation. He is a lot better when it comes to the traction. I mean, getting on the power, not as... he isn't doubting himself as much as he was previously. I mean, look at that. That exit, absolute beautiful exit. As I said, he isn't locking up. These guys, as someone who's racing these conditions, these guys, the wet tires are treating them well. And I think the rest of the field, especially John Murray, they're going to see them, they're going to say, listen, we can get on the wet tires right now, we're going to have amazing pace.
You're
right. The question is, your Biggles, who's going to pull the trigger first? Who is going to, I mean, Ocean Chief and George and Lavi as well, who is going to pull the trigger first and commit to that strategy? Because the wets look absolutely amazing right now.
They do, and we're going back to Merlin. there or Joel? Which one would you like to go to? Because I want to see how these leaders are going to react to this. Now, Joel's got a 4.3 second advantage, so he's covered off that 3 second penalty he has. However, he's got to be thinking about, geez, 4 laps to go, but they're struggling for the traction, you can just clearly see. But they can cover off to come in and out a P3, so they guarantee themselves a podium at this point if they can bring the car home. As George and Ocean Chief...
The thing is, Joel will not be pitting because he has that 3 second penalty. He cannot risk losing track position right now. He can't. So that's, if anyone's going to pull the trigger, I think it'll be Merlin.
Oh, sorry.
If Joel pulls the trigger...
Well, Futuristic just got past Tilte. So the wet weather tyres just absolutely annihilated him. As you can see, Tilte's actually said, no, I need those tyres. I need them too. Snell Hankey's too far down the road, but you never know what's going to happen towards the end if somebody has a bit of a spin or a moment, all those pit starts occurring. Once again, it's going to come back down to that. These top 2 guys can cover off the P3 of Curte. However,
what I am actually extremely interested about is Curte and Agatha, because these two, yes, they're teammates, but they are racing for points, folks. You know, they might be teammates, but P3 and P4, they both want to get the highest points. Separated, what, 7 seconds? So, gonna be interesting. Of course, both having penalties. At this point, Biggles, one of them pitting, we could see it as well. I don't think they will because I haven't had a moment yet. But I mean, that, you know, that looks like what's been pushing. Every time someone has a moment, they say, okay, you know what, I need new tires. And the people haven't had a moment yet, so I don't know if they're gonna pit. At the one point, it will be faster, but if we have a look at Joel, there isn't any points in pitting.
You need time. You needed time. You need to do it earlier, I think. The time is over. I think that crossover, it's like that, take that gamble. The only reason why they're going to be boxing right now will be because they lost the front wing. But I'll tell you what, Lavi's still back on the Echo. Ocean Chief, again, it's continuing. This battle between these two top guns has just been happening for practically all the race. Ocean Chief has done everything he needed to do to keep that man behind him of Lavi that we're on board with, the Haas driver. And he's done it well.
George getting a penalty there. How many penalties?
Everybody's on a 3. Everybody's on a 3 now, my friend. Some drivers are close. Joel's got to be careful. He is 1 away, 1 corner cutting away from a 6 second, and that will play into Merlin's hands for sure. So that's another thing. But Merlin's also on 2 warnings, so he's 1 away from getting his 3 second.
Sorry, Joel is losing as he said. You know, that window to gap is over, but Joel is, if you can have a look at his driving, he is not feeling as confident as he was. You know, we were talking about he was a pretty confident driver, but he is not feeling good on those inters. He's really struggling for grip, and I think wet tires, I think those wet tires are treating their owners a lot better. You know, even George, who he said was extremely confident, he can't get on the front side anymore. He's genuinely struggling. That back end wants to step out so bad. Honestly, Biggles, I think if they started pitting for wets, I think this whole race would have changed.
A late safety car now, there is... Well, no, I think it's just crossed over the point. You can't get one now. So that's it. There's going to be a play. Watching Joel right now. Joel has... his heart rate was be absolutely through the roof, isn't it? He's struggling to keep this car on pretty worn, 30% worn tyres, but in really, really wet conditions. Keeping that gap to Merlin. Merlin has to do all the best laps of his life right now to catch him and get under that 3 second delta, because currently he's at 4. But you've got to push in these conditions easily. The walls can push you out of this race if you push it too hard. And that's the interesting thing. Futuristic now has a mountain to climb, 23 seconds. He is shaving time left, right, and center from Lavi. However, I don't think he's going to get enough track time to get it done, because he's going to have to, 23 seconds, 5 seconds or so a lap. That's got to be even difficult.
As Futuristic almost loses it. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's. You know what? I think this. If this wet weather came earlier, I think we would have seen them all on wet tires. But it just came at the right time for those inter guys. And as I said, the pits. You know, the pits window's gone. The safety car window's gone. Everything is gone. Now it's just a battle to the end. But the thing is, interestingly enough, Biggles, and this is kind of sad as well, is those 2 Alfa Romeos, P8 and P10. I mean, they started so well, and now they're down there. It could have been a lot better. And we have a yellow flag there. Is that Tilde? I think that was Tilde meeting the wall. Unfortunately, Tilde meeting the wall. They're back on, but I think he might have damage. Yeah, what an interesting, what a race, wasn't it, Biggles? I mean, for these drivers, these conditions, it's something else.
Yeah, Singapore itself with 23 corners is difficult to get around. try that in changeable conditions as these gladiators have. Only 2 retirements, Mr. Pineapple and Neo. So I'd have to say hats off to these driving gentlemen for getting that job done, because it's easily peasily a way to bin it into the wall, as Julius is deciding, well, I think go to the wets and most likely a penalty or a front wing change served there. Just outside the points, anything is still possible. Always still possible, but we're on the penultimate lap of this race. There's your position gainers, Ocean Chief 7. And still managing to hold Lava up, I'd say, probably to the end of this race right now, because Lava's just had no way around Ocean Chief this evening. But certainly tried the best he possibly could for the Haas team. But now we're going to have to focus then, I guess, back on that situation at the front of the field there, because Merlin now, I don't think he could break that 3 seconds, can he?
No, he definitely can't. He definitely can't. I think that battle is unfortunately over. I think Joel, amazing drive from him. How he's done it, I don't know. But amazing drive from him. But yeah, no, as you said, Ocean Chief doing his all, and Lavi, honestly, Lavi, amazing race from him. I would have loved to see him get past Ocean Chief, but Ocean Chief, an amazing driver. Both of them really deserve, I would say, to be higher up. It's a shame they aren't, but yeah, absolutely amazing from both of them. Really good driving. Really shows, what these drivers can do.
We're also forgetting about the brilliant job of the Williams drivers of Kurte and Agafar.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They started in P1 and P3. Now, it hasn't panned out perfectly for them. One of them obviously get a podium. But they still managed to bring the cars home. And on top of it, they were the drivers, only 2 drivers that are in the top 4 that had, in the top 5, that started the extra pit stop. They took the extra pit stop over those 2 guys of Joel and Merlin that somehow made those 17-lap tyres we saw blistering before the crossover point, whereas these other gladiators of Kurte, these Williams drivers had to box a little earlier. They boxed on lap 7, and they'd softs to inters and soft mediums to inters for his teammate Agafar. So they've done a solid job, I'd have to say. Damage limitation from potentially a race win, but still bringing the car home is all you need to do around the tricky conditions of Singapore.
That is indeed all you need to do. And Joel, do you want to take us through this last lap?
You go for it, my friend. First time commentating with me, and I'm on it, and you go ahead with that one.
Are you sure? Okay, wait, I need to find out which corner he is right now. I have absolutely no idea.
I thought you were in the session.
Wait, no, I am, but like
Waffles
it isn't
Boulevard.
showing. Okay, he is at Waffles Boulevard here. If I am not correct, okay. So in here, you want to get a tight apex. Now the thing is, getting power delivery through turn 7 is extremely hard. Can Joel do it? Yes, he can. He brakes late in here, a bit too late for my tasting. Goes into corner turn 8 beautifully though. Now this is an extremely hard part. Into turn 9. Gets very close to the wall, a bit too close to comfort, but now it's absolutely sending it down the straight of sector 2 into turn 10. Beautiful corner this with that hotel, but very hard, leading up to, of course, 11 and 12. Some of the trickiest corners on this on the circuit, I guess. And then heads down into 13. 13, of course, the hairpin, but in these conditions, we aren't going to see a lot of overtaking, unfortunately, because it takes so long. Merlin, they're 17 seconds behind. I assume he's spun. Not very good day from him. As we see Joel heading into 14 now. 14 just before the quick, well, usually quick, I assume, 15, 16, and 17. We see him diving through here, going through 15. Usually you would actually ride that curve, but in the wet, you can't ride it too much. 15, 16, and 17 then, going through 18 and 19 here. Does he get it? Ooh, gets close to the wall, but not dangerously close. Short run to 20 through 21. And Biggles, do you want to take us through the rest, I assume?
No, well, okay, we will, because Joel has absolutely done it, and he's done it now by a massive mile. And Joel wins in changeable conditions into the spotlight of Singapore. Well, he stepped out of the spotlight and out of the shadows and into the spotlight. Joel, the Red Bull driver, wins the Tier 2 Singaporean Grand Prix.
And then in P2, we have this poor man. I think he spun or something. Had a bit of an accident there on the last lap. But still a brilliant effort from Merlin. Really did his best. Coming home in P2. Yeah, he's happy about it. P2, he'll take that. He does like that. He's still getting a 3-second penalty. Kirte, then, one of those Williams, as you were saying, brilliant drive from them both. Just really shows the talent and the raw pace they have. Kirte is coming home to get that P3. We'll see if he can. Snelle goes, the car actually gets past him. So Snelle does have some pace if he was more up the field, but unfortunately he isn't. Kirte then will take P3, I think. We'll wait for him to cross the line here in a second. And then Agatha, his teammate, coming home in a beautiful fourth. I mean, Biggles, that's an amazing
It's still
result.
going. It's still going, my friend, because Futuristic now has got past Lavi and Ocean Chief. So this is coming down to the absolute wire. Forget the Formula One real race. This is it. This is coming down to the wire for the Tier 2 championship. And it's not in the last round either, but it's coming through the last couple of corners of this track. This could go to any of these gladiators. There is a penalty nursing, obviously, for Lavi, but is Futuristic going to get past Ocean Chief? Who's the defender of all defenders? Can he do it for a couple more laps?
Slow.
He has. He's slowed down big time. He's
he's
going through.
Oh, Futuristic makes it. He makes it through. Oh, what a beautiful pass. Shows you the pace of those wets. Oh, Ocean Chief not going to be very happy about that. He fought so hard and it to be taken away by Futuristic. But Futuristic, beautiful drive, getting that alpha name back up there where it belongs.
Wow.
What a race.
I think it might have been something that happened a little earlier there, as we're focusing obviously on the other gladiators at the sharp end of the field there, finishing the race. It might have been something. Ocean Chief could have said, hey, I will get that drive of the day at least from P13 up into P7.
He deserves it.
But,
he deserves it.
Yeah, of course. On top of it, well, you know, he might have done the admirable thing. We don't know what's going on, but we do know one thing. If there's a wet weather master in Singapore, this is the man. Joel, my friend, a brilliant drive. You taste that bubbly, my friend. Sprayed over Adrian and sprayed over the camera. You are a Singaporean drivers champion.
What a result. That Red Bull really, I mean, you know, unfortunately, the other Red Bull at the bottom end of the spectrum, but still amazing race for them, having their driver win. What a race. Take us through.
You take us through, my friend, Mr. Panda.
Okay, Joel in winning the race, followed by Merlin. Brilliant effort from him. Kurte coming P3, Agatha P4, running a top 5 is George in a McLaren. We didn't talk a lot about him, a brilliant race from him as well. Futuristic then in P6, Ocean Chief P7, Lavi tried to get past that AlphaTauri, but he couldn't, so he takes P8. Tilde takes the P9, and Snelle actually takes P10. Gets that 1.4 alpha, that 1 point extra. P11 is Julius in the Mercedes. Not a good day for the Mercs. Definitely not what they wanted. Joel P12, unfortunately, out of the points. Nobody wanted him. And then our two retirees is Pineapple and Neo. Wasn't a strong race for them, but maybe they can come back in the next race.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That was an actionful... Biggles, what an actual actionful race, wasn't it?
Yeah, Panda, my friend, welcome along to the commentary box. This is how it rolls, my friend. It definitely rolls its way around those laps of Singapore. Of course, it hasn't rolled to the end yet because we definitely need to hear from these gladiators and these drivers. No doubt, Joel, Merlin, and Kuete, if we can. As maybe we can even hear from some of the others. Maybe even I'd like to hear from Ocean Chief doing a fantastic job of his defending. But we'll go to a pause. We'll allow those drivers to get the drink, and we'll be back in just a minute. Sorry? Did you want to say something?
No, it's fine. Don't worry. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is our interviews post-race of the Singapore Grand Prix, our Tier 2 drivers, of course, and what a race. Joel taking P1. Oh, give me a sec. I can hear echo there for a second. Joel taking P1. Beautiful race from you. What was it like out there?
I mean, that track is so intense, and I mean, a single mistake, especially in the wet, obviously exemplifies that, but a tiny mistake is going to cost you damage, and that's basically your race if you're running at the front. So, I mean, especially with Merlin so close to me, it was so close all race, and if it wasn't for him spinning on the last lap, then I don't think I would have won that one.
No, I think you won that one, my friend, because I think you had about a 3 to 4 second gap towards the end there.
Well, no, I had 4 seconds going on to the penultimate lap, and then I just started losing loads of time. Just before he span on the final lap, the gap was like 2.7. So, yeah, it was touch and go.
You qualified in P2.
And on the medium.
You picked up that penalty pretty early, which I think Merlin had kind of thought, okay, well, this worked out for him. He didn't have any warnings at that point. He ended up picking up an early warning. I only hang with you in 3 seconds. How was that feeling to you when you first received that penalty?
I mean, because it was early on in the race, it didn't bother me too much. I was obviously annoyed, but, I just got on with the race. And I finished with 2 extra warnings on top of that as well. So the last lap, it was kind of like, before he span, I was like, I'm going to have to push, but I can't spin, make a single mistake, and I can't get a warning. So
yeah, you were nursing on 5 overall. Obviously, it's 3 for a penalty and 6 for the extra penalty. But you got it. You bring it home. Panda, sorry I cut you off. I know you wanted to ask a question there.
No, it's fine. I do want to ask Joel, when the rain came bucketing down and you guys, saw some people bidding for the wets, of course, that wet performance, amazing. Were you ever tempted to dive into the pits and go into the wets? Or, were you trying to hold that track position? What was kind of your mentality when the rain really came down?
Well, no, not really. Not at that point. I was in a voice call Futuristic, actually, who obviously pit onto the wets and he was gaining 5 seconds. I wasn't going to give up my track position because at that point there was only like 5 laps left anyway, and I probably would have gained it back and won the race still, but I didn't really want to take that risk, to be honest. So, I mean, if Merlin had have pitted like 5 laps to the end, he probably would have got me with my penalty as well. So I'm just thankful that he didn't. But it came into my mind, but I decided against it because it got track position.
That was something that Panda was calling out, I think, as well, too, from the commentary box, going, well, he can't. Or if you did, you were the one in control of it. So Merlin has really that advantage of saying, well, I either stay out or come in. We saw that happen, unfortunately, to Mr. Snell Hankey, who decided to stay out when you guys all boxed to the inters, where that crossed over, and that cost the Alfa Romeo driver dearly because he had a bit of a spin, lost a front wing. And, unfortunately, the Alfa Romeo did eventually come back and get a point. But, it just goes to show you, doesn't it? 1 lap too late, it could certainly be all over. And
I mean, there was a dilemma as well on the drives to the inters because my mediums were sort of coming to the end. It was the pit stop window if I wanted to pit for another set of drives before the rain, because at that point it was 15 minutes to 10 minutes, and I was debating, and I very nearly came in for hards as if to go to the end, because when Jeff says 15 minutes, he means not for a long while.
Jeff doesn't have my telemetry, my friends, but I understand that.
But then, I mean, after that lap, he's then said 5 minutes, so I stayed out. I was a bit sceptical of I was out for 5 laps at the end. But, I mean, Merlin did the same, so I wasn't losing anything.
That's the beauty of this game. I keep telling people over and over again, the broadcast, if you listen. It's from the programmer of the telemetry software that I use, it's updated every 5 minutes, and it's dynamically updated every 5 minutes because it did show for thunderstorms coming earlier into the race, but then it changed over to more lighter inter conditions because it does update every 5 minutes. And that's what spices things up, because Jeff doesn't really know. We don't really know. Drivers don't know. You just have to go with the flow of how it feels on track. But that rain come down pretty heavy, didn't it? And that really was in a 1 or 2 lap crossover, and it goes to show you guys just absolutely made it perfect today, because if you didn't, that could have gone completely the other way. Did you actually note or change your car or adapt for wet weather ending to the race? Was that something forecasted for you?
No, I was already on 11-11 wings on my drive setup, so I couldn't do much anyway. So I kept
dry
it the same.
setup, 11 wings.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, it goes to show you, it wins. Fastest lap didn't go to you, unfortunately. It did go to Futuristic, but that's...
No, well, I mean, it's pretty much locked in, and after the rain came anyway, so.
Yeah, and both of you and Merlin did a fantastic job there of not binning into the wall on those 17-lap mediums because, yeah, you're the only two guys. Well, actually, there was two other drivers. The driver of Ocean Chief and Lavi also did the one-stop strategy, which kind of planned out perfectly because you had to eke those tyres to the limit and just pray for that rain to start coming down, which it did at the right time. But, you know, 60-odd%, I think the right-hand tyre mediums could have easily ended up with you in the barrier disagreeing. But you didn't.
Yeah.
You kept it out. And then, of course, had to keep it out again for the remainder of the race when it got wetter and wetter with the 14-lap tyres. Mate, yeah. Joel, mate, to win a Singaporean Grand Prix is an effort in itself. To win one in massive downpour conditions towards the end is another feat. So congratulations,
I'm
mate.
very happy.
So Red Bull,
Thanks.
another Red Bull victory, side by
Another
side.
one?
Yeah, from Max Verstappen, obviously, on the weekend.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've won before.
No, yeah, so your first race win. So looks like changeable conditions may very well be your ace up your sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, I only did 5 laps of practice before, and I've never driven this track on this game before, so.
We did talk about this, which is what I also was great to see, was Neo and the Pineapples the only two DNFs from the race. And even if you're going to finish outside the points, like we were saying up in the commentary box, you don't get to practice race conditions like this all the time in changeable conditions. So just do it. Just go out there and set your own personal best, race the track yourself, even if you're not going to get points, because you're planning on being here for the whole race anyway. And you don't get that much chance to... You can't script how you could race around track in these conditions like that. As much as you can try to set it up, the only way to really get the experience is to be in the race. And that experience will help you for future races in the future. Future. Yeah. Thank you. We'll let you go, Joel. Celebrate down there in the Red Bull team. Congratulations.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
They're definitely going to have a few parties, aren't they?
They will, Panda. The other party man that we have will be Mr. Futuristic for the Alfa Romeo. He parties himself because he got the fastest lap, a 140, that the drivers did not see towards the end of the race because they ended up, believe it or not, lapping in the 2 minutes and 1 seconds that I'd predicted, remember, as it got heavy.
Yeah.
That's why the race really drawn up. Futuristic, how was that for you, my friend, starting in P6 and finishing in P6?
I mean, I had to really fight for that P6 because of at least one stupid mistake out of the bridge hairpin on the inters, because this change of condition was so tricky. So I bent it out of the hairpin. We're forced to pit for the full wets because the rain was just pouring down and the standing water just got more and more every lap. And I were calculating in my head. I was forced on full wets to do 157s, while Ocean and Lava had to do like 05s, 06 for me to be able to catch them and to overtake them. But I knew it was going to be close. Yeah. Bloody, I sweated my ass off today for that P6.
Yeah, no, it's the humidity 1 degree north of the equator, not to mention the rain and the concentration levels and the 23 corners. You did an absolutely fantastic job with the 3 pit stops as well. The only man in the top 10 that took the extra pit stop and still managed to bring the car home. You used almost every compound, my friend, mediums, inters, and wets. The softs were the only ones that didn't see themselves attached to your car today.
And the hards as well.
No, I believe you only got... My telemetry only shows you as mediums, inters, and wets.
Yeah, but he didn't see the hard as well.
Oh, so yeah, he did see the hard.
Oh.
He did see a hard race and delivered it, that's for sure. Yeah. George is the rain master out there. Any other interviews for sure, guys? You can come in. I think we have another driver in here for sure because, mate, you guys had to sweat it out around Singapore like that. You deserve an interview.
I do want to ask. I do want to ask Futuristic. Would you say that was one of, if not the hardest race of the season? You know, Singapore, of course, you know, being an extremely narrow street circuit, and of the rain. Would you say that was one of the hardest you've contended in so far?
So far, yes. Even though I DNF'd in Monaco, I would still be able to say this was the hardest race so far.
Monaco is easy. No, but we were talking about it, in the comms box, and we were saying it's you guys being so close to each other constantly, and as you said, you were catching those Ocean Chief and Lavi, at a rapid pace, at one point. It is an easy circuit, and honestly, from I think my side and Biggle's side, just congrats to you guys. Really to do something like that, it's amazing. It is genuinely, it's amazing. It's amazing that you guys can do it.
And to back onto that one as well, you got to look, as you can see there on the standings on the screen in the YouTube feed, that he didn't get a penalty. So he got the fastest lap without a penalty. He was nursing 2 warnings, however, so Futuristic managed just to be lucky not to get that one. Have to obviously big shout out to Ocean Chief. That was the man that, as you guys know, is almost impossible to get past, and talk to Lava about that one because he was trying so hard. Futuristic, I think you're the only driver that did manage to get an overtake on Ocean Chief with similar tyres. With similar tyres, and that's something else, because Ocean Chief, a man from P13 to finish in P7 on that alternate strategy with the hards to inters, but Ocean Chief, being Ocean Chief, got no warnings whatsoever during that race with all that defending. And that itself, I don't know why you guys in leagues never give an extra point for not getting any penalties, because that itself is just an uphill climb. But it is what it is. And Futuristic, thank you very much, mate. You did the drive, and once again, you got that consolation prize of the fastest lap that was set way back in the dry days of this race. It feels like for eternity right now, doesn't it, when it was dry?
Yeah, about 40 minutes ago.
But then again, it comes down to those perfect conditions for the Scandinavian drivers, because that's practically how it's going to be outside, I guess, if you drive the car around Sweden right now.
Well, we actually have some snow and ice, so
Yeah, see? So that's it. You're
maybe
like,
go
hey,
rallying instead.
yeah, this is like, hey, this is perfect for me, man. Singapore, let me just drift my car around the corners. So anyway, good on you, my friend.
Should just Boston.
And yeah, final interview I believe we're going to have, which will be with the Panda. Who is that one? Mr. Tier 3 bottom feeder?
I'm not quite sure, actually.
I'm not sure who that is. Can you...
Oh, it's Ocean Chief. It's Mr. Ocean Chief.
It's Mr. Ocean Chief. I was just speaking about you, my friend. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Good. No penalties? No warnings, sorry. Yeah. Wow. How'd you...
Yeah,
And I don't, the
How
camera
did you
was on you
defend?
for some time, my friend. It was on for you some time because you're under attack consistently and you held it up.
How do you
Yeah,
defend that long?
I don't know. Like, I think when a rain comes out, you tend to, once you get into the groove, you tend to just go at the same pace as anyone who's close to you. So I think Lava Vasul, he was kind of like a little bit faster than me overall, but I think I was just able to, because it's wet, you really have to commit to an overtake, and it's quite tricky to overtake her without DRS, even in the dry. But yeah, it was just basically try to get to the wet condition, with the hard tires. And then once the wet conditions, inters were grand. Once you got up to speed, they were grand. Took me a few laps, and then I had to kind of hold off Lava Vasul. But I tell you what, when it got really wet, it got really, really, really wet, and it was very difficult to control the car. The tire temperatures were very, very, very low. And Lava Vasul, he seemed to do a lot better on inters on the heavy rain. And of course, Futuristic appeared on the last lap there, and we had a bit of a moment. I don't know if you caught that, but he obviously wasn't accounting for the fact that I was on inters and had to brake earlier for that corner. And he went into the back of me, but we were in VC together, so it wasn't too bad. He was going to let me hold P6 because of that incident, but I just said, look, no. The wets at that point were so much faster than the inters, and plus I'm a reserve as well, so yeah, that was about it. But that was a long, tough race, 31 laps, in the dry, difficult, but in wet conditions, it's difficult. Yeah.
Well, it seemed to me that you're performing obviously a lot better from P13 as well. So your qualifying wasn't quite, I guess, where you wanted to be. But in the end of the day, it kind of worked out, didn't it? Because you said, because I'm outside the top 10, I'll elect to go to the hards. Was that a strategy you thought, okay, knowing that there potentially is going to be a typhoon coming to in the mid of this race?
No, actually, I thought whenever I saw that it was drying out in quali, I thought, you know what? People probably, automatically think, right, let's go sauce. Right, what if I go mediums and then try to make it through the rain on the mediums? But when I went out to do my medium run, I hit a wall on my outlap, and that was that over. I didn't have time for another run, so I kind of noobed myself. I didn't get a dry run in, and that cost me a lot of positions there. But yeah, me and Tilda, pretty similar pace there, but I think he had an incident. He started pulling away a wee bit, and I think there was an incident with another driver there. So it was unfortunate for him because he did have pace to finish ahead of me, definitely. And who knows, if he switched to full wets at the right time, he could have done pretty well today.
Yeah, had to take the gamble earlier, and well, he did it. He only did 3 laps. The guy that took the gamble on the wets was Mr. Snell Hankey. He was the first in there because I believe he had a front wing change or had a penalty to serve, and he just got back in there in the points too for the Alfa Romeo driver. That was certainly on pace, battling it up at the top of the field there. One of the quickest drivers, I believe, during the earlier stages of the race. On top of that one, well, yeah, Ocean Chief, I believe there was only 2 drivers that got past you during that whole race, and considering you had a bunch of drivers in your rear mirrors during the whole race. That obviously towards the end there was futuristic. And I'm not quite sure if we did capture it, but the highlights will be uploaded soon. And Lavi just does not like seeing the back of the AlphaTauri car for sure, because he's just sick of it, no doubt. And he picked up a few penalties as well, trying to get past. But as you knew, without that DRS, even with the DRS, he was absolutely struggling before that crossover point. And once again, it proves that you are one of the most difficult drivers to get past on track, and that's something, isn't it? You'd like to have that on your resume, or maybe on your gravestone. It's like, we tried to get past, but we could not. There it is. So that sums up.
But the problem is, the reason why they're behind me in the first place is because they're faster than me. I've just got really good at defending, so I need to work on my overall pace, I think. But there was a few times there was guys on faster tires behind me.
That was the only overtake I saw. Somebody on softs, yeah. I think that was Tilda.
Yes. Whenever it comes to that, I kind of just think there's no point fighting the guy, because we saw that what happened to Tilda. He, obviously it seemed like he was fighting the guy, a little bit, and they came together. So that is a risk you take, It
actually reminds me towards the end. Sorry to cut you off there, because it just remembered me. You did lift off to allow futuristic through, if I'm not mistaken, towards the end. Am I right there, Panda? I think that's what happened, right? So was that because you gave the position back? What happened?
Yeah, so we were going into sector 3. I suddenly realized, there's two cars behind me instead of just one. And one of them was futuristic, who previously, when I looked up there, was 30 seconds behind a few laps before, and then now he was like 1 second behind, passing Labi Vasil. So the next corner, then he was just, he obviously getting much better exits and corners, just making up a lot of delta. And then we were approaching a corner after a short straight, and it was just a case. I think he just didn't realize that I would have to brake that early, and he went into the back of me. I did almost lose the car, and I did give off a bit in VC about it. But he was being a gentleman. He says, like, you can keep the position. But that's what I was trying to say. Like, it wasn't a case of me giving them the position. Like, I mean, he was on wets, and they were definitely the tire to be on at that point. And I just thought, if I try and fight you right now, I'm probably going to kill both of us. So I didn't fight it. So that probably looked like I gave him the move, but I was like, I just didn't want any part of that. I was happy with P7.
But it was like that was around 16, 17, 18. You only had about a couple more corners to go, and after being the best defender in the league, that's surely would have been able to held him off for a couple more. Just, you're two gentlemen, my friend. You gotta go elbows out, my friend. But anyway, it is what it is. That was decided. Yeah. Prandal, did you have any questions for the defender of the planet?
You've covered everything, and as I said, extremely well done. I've never seen defending like that, and I hope you can. Maybe you should start hosting a class, and you can teach us how to defend like that. But no, seriously, well done. That was incredible, and I say congrats, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks guys for doing the commentary. Good vibrations. Let's go.
It's good, absolutely good for sure, because we have much more league racing to go after the Christmas break and stuff like that. Because this is the Marina Bay done, round 13, of course. We then go over, like up a little bit there to the same time zone of Japan, Suzuka, on those classic tracks, and then we head over to the Americas for the USA, Mexico, and Brazil. Go back down under for Australia, and then over to the Middle East, of course, for a couple of rounds. Portimao will be thrown into the mix there, and of course Jeddah for the final round. We're looking forward to that, all into the new year, no doubt. Well, a new chapter in broadcasting and commentating, because Panda, first time working with you, my friend. You are a fantastic commentator. I'm absolutely happy and honoured to have you in the commentary box with me.
Oh, thank you, man. I do appreciate it. Yeah, no, it was an extremely fun race, and it was extremely good being here with you, Biggles. It was a fun race. I can't wait for more after the Christmas break. I think it's going to be amazing. And thanks for having me.
Not a problem, my friend. If we get at this again, I'll make sure I get a picture up there for you that you'd like to choose, because it's just the Ferrari driver. I said
Yes,
productive.
definitely
Yeah, it says productive, Panda. I think I got that one right. Exactly. So, yeah, very productive for sure, my friend. Absolutely. I apologize about the stream. A little bit delayed at the start there. But we have backups. 2S Racing is your community for racing, and plenty more to go. And obviously the Tier 1 Top Guns will be racing again soon on top of that. So that's it from myself and Mr. Productive Panda in the booth. We need a lay down. We need to dry out ourselves, have a couple of Singapore slings. And we'll see you guys again next week. Same time, same network. Good night.